Ladies and gentlemen, good day and thank you for joining us for Focused for Growth Global Entrepreneurship Week 2017. Help me welcome Dr. Marcia Brandon to Toronto via internet. Marcia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Brandon, for partnering with us to celebrate Global Entrepreneurship Week 2017. We look forward to the wealth of information that you will share on the DNA of the Caribbean entrepreneur. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Brandon is the managing director of the Global Entrepreneurship Network Caribbean. Marcia is a founding member of the Caribbean Entrepreneurship Week and represents the official host of GEW Caribbean. She's an expert in youth entrepreneurship as well as in sustainable livelihoods. In fact, she heads an organization that speaks the name Sustainable Livelihoods. Marcia, could you say the name for us?
Caribbean Center of Excellence for Sustainable Livelihoods.
Exactly, she lives it. She has also published on mentorship, resilience, sustainability, plus the prospects for entrepreneurship in the Caribbean. Before we get started on the DNA of the Caribbean entrepreneur, Marcia, how is Barbados and how will you celebrate GEW there and the whirlwind tour you've been on for the Caribbean?
Well, Caribbean Center of Excellence for Sustainable Livelihood, COESL for short, some people say COSEL, is the host of GEW in St. Kitts and Nevis. So this week, we are in St. Kitts and Nevis. Usually when I come here, I come with partners from Barbados or elsewhere. For the past 3 years, it's been partners from Barbados. So I'm here now with our partners who are the Youth Agripreneurs Incubator Program, who are some young men out of Barbados from the Ministry of Agriculture who run a youth agri incubator program for young people, young farmers, yeah? And, young agriculturists, I shouldn't say it's not just farmers. It's aquaponics and agro-processors and researchers and whoever is into agriculture as a career. So they're here with 3 of their persons, young farmers, young agriculturalists who have passed through their program. And we started out with Nevis. I did an innovation program in Nevis for 2 days. And then we had a reception with the premier and some of the PSs. Our partner, who is the Department of Small Business through Catherine Forbes and PS Door. And then we came back to St. Kitts. And so far we've had training in record keeping and meetings with the Ministry of Commerce and Trade. And we've been doing lots of different things and keeping extremely busy for GEW. It's been extremely interesting as usual.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Brandon. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we will get the conversation on the DNA of the Caribbean entrepreneur going. Dr. Brandon, how would you describe the DNA of the Caribbean youth entrepreneur?
Let me just say that I think it's so interesting that you're using the DNA, because the person I used to hear using that word for so long is Basil Springer out of Barbados, I think it is, yeah. Now resides in Trinidad. So it was interesting when I heard you using that word. It's catching on, and I think you have been using it for a long time as well.
Mhm.
So yes, the entrepreneur in the Caribbean, I would say the DNA, if I had to look at it, would be one of resilience, some kind of resilience, um, savviness, getting savvy as the day go by, um, street smart, common sense.
Uh-huh.
Many are educated. Um, some are aggressive, some are assertive. I can say for especially the younger entrepreneurs, the more mature ones are a bit more conservative and also wiser, I would say. Um, and that makes them conservative, I guess, erring on the side of caution. Whereas the younger ones, I see them jumping into different things and trying to do things. I think one of the things that still plagues us is this aversion that we have to failure, and also the fear. Yeah. I think we are now becoming much more aware of the fact that we will fail. There is no if, but, or maybe about it. We are going to fail somehow, somewhere, and it's when we fail, what do we do? Yeah, how do we act on that failure, or how do we resolve that failure? So I think the DNA of the Caribbean entrepreneur looks innovation is also one of the things. I think extremely creative people in the region, very, very creative entrepreneurs, and now more than anything else are becoming extremely mobile and utilizing technology quite a bit to foster that mobility. But I think we also are going to have to, because I factor myself in as a Caribbean entrepreneur as well, we're going to have to do a lot more research, become, we need to lose some of the stigma from what is innovation and what is research, because I think in the Caribbean we're almost perfectionists. We like to do things big, and research isn't just me asking you 10 questions and asking 10 more people 10 questions and using that. It's some big elaborate questionnaires and those kinds of things. Yeah. So I think we're getting around those, though. We're beginning to realize that, there are different, simpler ways of doing things and easier ways of doing things. And we're becoming more savvy at catching on to those things.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brandon. My next question to you is, how has Caribbean culture impacted the DNA of the Caribbean entrepreneur?
Well, it's been good and not so good in some cases. If historically, if we go back to that history of slavery, that has kept us back a bit, because of the fact that we were told that we couldn't run businesses and we weren't good business people, and some people still have that stigma attached to them as Caribbean people. However, there are a set of Caribbean people who now realize that we've had a history of running businesses. We look back at Marcus Garvey and Lewis, who were pushing entrepreneurship for a very long time in the region, even though it didn't catch on too well then. It's certainly catching on now for whatever reason. And the culture now is beginning to foster entrepreneurship in an extremely big way. We still have a way to go. We have come a far way. We still have a way to go. Our education system needs revamping totally, or ecosystem in terms of policies and different things still have some ways to go. But at least many of the plans, the development plans and national development plans and strategic plans in the region are actually focused on entrepreneurship.
That's great.
And youth plans and those kinds of things. So we know that at the policy level, we're getting the support for entrepreneurship. The infrastructure needs, more work, but we are extremely optimistic that as entrepreneurs, we are going to continue to work with governments and the necessary stakeholders to ensure that the ecosystem, the enabling ecosystem, is put in place so that entrepreneurs can grow more and more and become sustainable. Yeah.
Dr. Brandon,
Mhm.
back in the day, even post emancipation, we had our descendants growing ground provision, running around trading. Then there were the East Indians who came and they were selling more of the fabric and so on. And then the Mediterranean selling, well, they with their haberdasheries and so on and so forth. The
Mhm.
Chinese and their agricultural store, primary agricultural feed store and patty
Mhm.
shop and Chinese was also is also haberdashery type thing and so on,
Yes.
and others that we we can't name everybody, but everybody
Yes.
was
Yes.
there, and
Yes.
everybody doing their thing, and of course the Europeans were there.
Right.
They were the leading business people, but
Yeah.
talking about those who came after, all
Yes.
of that has come together from the women described as down from the hills they come with swinging hips and steady strides to feed the
Yes.
hungry town.
Mm-hmm.
Road to Lacovia, the woman who has the grocery shop where she sells groceries and so on, and around the back she's growing the old chicken and so on, whilst the husband is probably a construction worker, but he also has a farm somewhere. And maybe on the weekends she's going to go to the market someplace to
Yes.
now sell what the husband has planted, and so
Yes.
on and so forth. What about how has that kind of entrepreneurship and the culture, how has that influenced entrepreneurship in the Caribbean? And I speak, the examples I gave were largely Jamaican, but I know they exist in other places. And I would share with clients in Dominica in the day of a set of persons who, for instance, used to sell the Gleaner and the newspaper in the morning
Right.
along Halfway Tree Road. Now,
Right.
traffic, no matter how fast traffic was, those people were able to make the change. They have two bibs. If you want Observer,
Yes.
it's 15. If it's Gleaner, and by 10 o'clock, those people were downtown to get juice, because now it's going to be juice to be sold for the
Yes.
thirsty commuter. And evening, some of them will be on the street side with roses now for you to take home.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
those
Yeah.
people are serious.
Yeah. And those people are still, they're still thriving and striving in the region. Throughout the region, you see them. You will see them in Barbados selling coconut water and jelly now, packaged in containers so you can take it away. They keep it in an ice box. So you can buy the jelly by itself in a container.
Oh,
Um, and you see them also selling roast corn. You see them selling barbecue pigtail. There are several other things, and many now agriculture people who are selling ground provision, which is the yams and the dashins and different things on the side of the road, or the fruit vendor who's selling apples and pears and bananas, ripe bananas and those kinds of things. In Trinidad, you will see tons of different kinds of entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs on the road selling the same fruits, selling the same kinds of ground provision, and even flowers, cut flowers, yeah, in between the traffic, just as you're describing, especially in Trinidad. And I know that happens in Jamaica as well. In Grenada, you'll see the roadside kind of in Barbados, it's not in between the traffic so much. Maybe the newspaper person is the one
oh
who will
yes.
be between the traffic and try to sell. But the micro entrepreneurs, the heart of the people, are still very much there, providing that need, because in every single society in the region and outside of the region, but we're concentrating on the region, we have need for all types of entrepreneurs: micro, medium, small, large. Yeah, it's that balance that makes up the entire society, and it's the interdependence and the interconnectivity that makes up sustainable development. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Megan, because sometimes we overlook the micro entrepreneurs and the informal entrepreneurs, thinking that they're less of an entrepreneur than anybody else, but they provide a very, very basic and fundamental need for us, a product and service for us that, that we need.
Yeah, because they were also backers. You'll have the woman who is the dressmaker, for instance,
Yes.
and maybe her husband is a tailor. But come weekend, she's going to bake puddings and all sorts of
Community
items, and those will be sold maybe at church on Sunday, or maybe people will go to her home for it.
Yes.
And and those monies are going into whether sending children to school,
Into the home.
all kinds of things
To sustain the home. And as you say that, I mean, just today I saw a young lady in a skirt. And I said, "Oh, that's such a lovely skirt." And she said to me, she bought it from a lady who makes them and sells them online.
Oh.
So you see, even our seamstresses are utilizing the internet. She's selling it online, you order, and she delivers to you. Yeah? And then she makes up patterns and stuff. Well, not patterns, but makes up designs, sends them to you to see if you want them, and then you order in your size.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So some people are savvy enough to utilize the internet and do that. Others are still doing what they need to do, but all providing a very niched kind of need.
Indeed. Thank you again, Dr. Brandon, for sharing. My third question is, what can the Caribbean Canadian entrepreneur look to his or her roots for when responding to, one, the call of entrepreneurship, and two, focusing their businesses or business for growth?
Okay, and this is the Caribbean.
The Caribbean Canadian.
Canada. Yeah?
Right. In particular, the youth who was born and raised in Canada and has a very foggy connection to his roots. Maybe the only real connection is some dancehall music, and he's just getting a part of the surface, not even understanding that there is a yes and a no about this.
Right. So the question is what they can look to in terms of
their route when they're responding to the call of entrepreneurship, as well as focusing their businesses to grow from the perspective of the individual entrepreneur, the kind of mindset and so on and so forth.
So I think that's going to be extremely critical and something we're moving away from and need to get back to for some cross-generational transfer of knowledge right there. We have moved away from the storytelling and connecting our elders with our young people. That cross-generational transfer of knowledge and mentoring that can take place is missing. It's not as strong as it used to be, and I suspect that it happened because of this moving away, this migration and different things. But now that we have technology, so a lot of that can actually be reinforced, and through research as well, people can learn more as well about their culture, not just music and food and stuff, but techniques. How did our ancestors do this? How did people in our countries do this? What is it that we have in our DNA or in our lineage or in our legacy that we can draw on. Yeah. People like to say we draw on the strength of the Maroons, we draw on the strength of Nani, we draw on the strength of Marcus Garvey, yeah, Paul Vogel, all the others, who are the people who the Caribbean Canadians have in their bloodline that they can draw things from, you know, and utilize, you know, and say, boy, you know, this is where I come from, and this is who I am, and I'm going to use it, you know. So I think that is critical. But also in modern times, in terms of what is happening in Jamaica now, there are some good things happening in the Caribbean. And Jamaica, I say Jamaica because Jamaica has made some strides in doing business. That index, doing business index in the world, Jamaica has moved up quite significantly above the rest of the region. So, and I know the rest of the region is pushing to make sure that they can make it easier for entrepreneurs to do business. Caribbean Canadian entrepreneurs can look to come back into the region to invest and you know, start businesses with, whether it's with partners, forming alliances and collaborations, but also pull Caribbean people into Canada as well by doing the same thing. So it can be, you know, a reciprocal. I'm losing my word. But it can be a give and take kind of thing, where people find opportunities there and people come into the region to find opportunities.
I think we're having
and chips
bandwidth
and collaboration. Okay.
Okay, we kind of back. It's the technology is trying to disrupt our little interaction here. Yeah, the bandwidth is up and down there now.
Okay.
And so, and when it comes to the resilience, you mentioned some names that are associated with the resilience, because it's that part of it, the part of the grit, and so on. Yeah, it's one of the things that in the Caribbean, on the ground, it's there. It's there. So, would you have any last words for those who are on the path of trying to focus and grow their organization, to grow themselves as entrepreneurs, and to just draw on their Caribbean heritage to twin with the wholesome heritage and DNA that they would have gotten by being raised in the Canadian environment?
Yes, I would encourage them strongly to understand, get to understand their roots, get to understand the DNA of entrepreneurs in the region and entrepreneurs where they are, get to understand their own DNA, and mindset is extremely important in entrepreneurship, in life, but in entrepreneurship especially, that tough mindset that one needs to get through things when you fail, when you don't get paid, when things don't go the way you want it to go. The ability to hang in there and say, okay, let me maybe take some time, few hours down, rest, and come back again. But it's that resilience, that grit, that tough mindset that is going to get them through that. And the ability to be creative, the ability to see opportunities where everybody else is seeing problems, you know, the ability to be calm and unruffled, not just acting on emotions, even though emotions is important. There's nothing at all wrong with emotions, but it's ensuring that emotions go hand in hand with level-headedness and with facts. Yeah. So yeah, so those are some of the things I would encourage entrepreneurs to do. Of course, make sure that they are good money managers, and if they're not, get somebody who they trust. And also team. I think this is also extremely important. Making sure that you have a team, and a lot of times I say to people, we at COASL practice a model that we call the complementary capitalism model, and it's a model where we don't employ people, people employ themselves, and we all work together as entrepreneurs, sharing a dollar rather than sharing nothing at all by ourselves. So sharing a dollar together rather than being out there acting on our own and not getting 1 cent, So working in teams is important. Find people who can complement what we do. We need an accountant. Instead of one out there struggling on their own, bring them into your team and they become a part of writing the next proposal with you and being on the next speaking engagement or something, yeah? And that way you start building trust and building resources, because when you have that kind of team around you, then you don't have to do everything yourself, and they don't have to do everything themselves either.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brandon, for sharing. Thank you also for having been our event partner. I know this has been a busy week for you. I know you're also accustomed to it. So happy GEW week to you. Thank you for joining us in Canada, and take our regards and wishes back to the Caribbean for GEW. Until next time, Marcia, take care.
Thank you. And remember, this is 10 years, GEW 10.
10, indeed, 10. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I'm Megan Scott at Maggot Wild Horse, bringing you Focused for Growth, GEW 2017, in company and with sharing from Dr. Marcia Brandon. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye.